Hello and welcome to FPL Mates. I'm a new FPL YouTube channel, so if you like what you see today, please consider sticking around and maybe even ding my little bell for notifications. Trust me, you won't regret it. Right, in this Game Week 26 preview video, we will be covering some transfer targets for the week and beyond, some weekly topics including what to do with Lundstram, preparing for the Game Week 28 blanks, the winter break and how it will affect us, and finally, we'll be looking at the best captaincy options for Game Week 26. Right. Let's crack on with this watch list then. First off, Danny Ings. Now, I know a lot of you will already have him, but in case you don't, I wanted to include him in the watch list as I think he could easily be the most important player to own in FPL over the next 5 game weeks and maybe even beyond. That is, of course, excluding your essentials such as Salah, Trent and KDB. But Ings is next and at 7 million, a lot cheaper. A hell of a lot cheaper than those premium players. Massively sold before the Liverpool game, you could be fooled into thinking he had a bad game week in the 4-0 loss. He actually had a few chances and could have scored. In his last 6 game weeks, his 21 shots in the box is only bettered by the 22 of Salah and Firmino. And considering both of those players had 7 starts during that period compared to Ings' 5, I'd say Ings wins that one. He's been slightly underperforming on his expected goals, so you'd expect that to pick up, especially as he's about to face some of the worst defences in the league all in a row with Burnley, Villa, West Ham, Newcastle and Norwich. He is a must-have for the next 5, and it might even be worth looking at some other Southampton players for this insanely favourable period. Next up, it's Harvey Barnes, and it's very easy to add Harvey Barnes to the watch list. When you look at his recent form, 3 goals and an assist in his last 3 games. You would expect him to continue starting now as Brendan Rodgers has spoken highly of him. And what kind of manager would drop a player in this kind of form? Pep. He is slightly overperforming his expected goal involvements, but what does look really nice is his minutes per shot in the box of 36.4. So he's taking shots in the box at a similar rate to Jimenez, Abraham, Dini, Son and Mahrez, except he's a lowly 5.9 million valued midfielder. Now Leicester's next fixtures are away to Wolves and then at home to City, but after that he has 4 straight green fixtures. If you're not quite ready to take a punt, he could be a great Jack Grealish replacement in Game Week 28, where Aston Villa do not play and Leicester get to play Norwich. And that's probably what I'm going to do. Finally, we have Willy Bolly. Now, it's actually surprising how few FPL managers are bringing him in. He could be a bit of a hidden gem in the fact that because he's only been back for 1 game week, no one really wants to take a punt on him. And no one's even looking at him. He's not appearing in the form tables, for example, on the FPL website. Bolly played 8 games at the beginning of the season, getting 3 clean sheets during that time. He then got injured for several months, during which time I believe Wolves only managed to keep 1 clean sheet, and then he comes straight back in the team versus Man U and keeps a clean sheet at the weekend. There is no doubt here that Wolves are better defensively with Bolly at their hearts, and when Wolves get clean sheets, Bolly seems to grab bonus points too. He actually collected 7 bonus points during his 8 starts before his injury, so that's an average of almost a bonus point per game. And add that to how cheap he is, how good his fixtures are, and how under the radar he is in the larger FPL community, I think Willy Bolly should be probably your number 1 defensive pick. Especially if you're looking for someone who you can just keep in your team for the rest of the season. I think probably the biggest question of the week is what to do with Lord Lundstram. He has served his profits well for 25 game weeks, but is this the time for him to return to being just a mere morsel, from Lord Lundstram to regular old John? Well, considering he has been dropped in 3 out of his last 6 games, coming on at the end for a couple of those games with those nasty 1-pointers, not nice stuff. When he is playing, his minutes are reduced, which is, I guess, great for an FPL defender. Not so great if it's putting into doubt his importance in the squad. Even after all that, he has been thrown 1 place further down the pecking order with Sander Berge, who is a fantastic prospect, wanted by top European teams, but who is, of course, a defensive midfielder. It could be that Lundstram is rotated in for games where Sheffield want to go for it rather than sit back and defend, but even that's a controversial statement when speaking about Sheffield. They are a team that likes to defend, and I think it's pretty clear now that Lundstram is no longer a player who will be playing every week, so you just can't depend on him in the same way as you could before. And if he's your only Sheffield United defender, that's not really a great thing. You would ideally want a Sheffield defender for the next 5 game weeks. Even though they do blank in game week 28, they are still likely to pick up a few more clean sheets in that period than even the vast majority of teams who play 5 over that period. You can do a straight swap with Egan no matter what price you bought Lundstram at. You can upgrade to Stevens if you have a bit in the bank, which is a great transfer I think, and even if you do have to take a hit to do this transfer or anticipate having to take a hit to remove his Sheffield United replacement in game week 28 for example, Egan Stevens, whoever only has to outscore Lundstram in 2 game weeks by only 4 points for it to be worth it. And judging by the fact that the other Sheffield defenders all got 12 or more points over the last 2 and Lonnie only got 2 over the last 2, you'd say that's pretty likely. My verdict is to sell, whether that's to another Sheffield defender or maybe Willy Bolly. I'm now a member of the Lexit Party. Get Lundstram out. In game week 28, 4 teams will blank: City, Arsenal, Sheffield United and Aston Villa. Now, I know that's only 2 games, but it covers surprisingly large amounts of well-owned players. KDB, Aguero, Grealish, Aubameyang, plus the entire Sheffield United back line. It's likely that you've got at least a few of these players, and if you currently don't have 11 playable players for game week 28, then you have to think about these next 3 free transfers that you have to do something about it. I think personally it'll be best to take 2 free transfers into the build up to week 28. That way you can keep the players you actually want for the weeks 26 and 27 and then make a couple of switches at the end, sort of at the last minute. Make sure this blank weekend is at the forefront of your thinking. Check out which of your team is likely to look like they can play in game week 28, which ones you might not want to play in game week 28 even if they do have a game, and sort of adjust accordingly. A quick note on the winter break and how it could affect your game week. So for those of you who don't know, game week 26 will take place over the course of 2 separate weekends. 4 games will be played over the weekend commencing Saturday the 8th of February, and the other 6 will be played on the weekend of Saturday the 15th of February. So though technically on that second weekend there's more, there's a Friday game and there's a Monday game, so it's a little bit all over the place just to confuse us a little bit and to give the Premier League players a little winter rest. This basically gives 2 consequences that could impact our FPL team choices. The first of which is that we will only have access to the press conferences for those who play in the first weekend. So any injury news of players being dropped, we will only know about this first 4 games. So on the second load of games, we're back in the dark, as the deadline will have passed by the time we know anything. We won't have a clue about Mane before we make our team selections, for example. The second impact will be how rested players will be. So for example, Man City players have had their regular week's rest, but then they get 2 full weeks rest before they play their next Premier League game, and then they play their Champions League game after that. Liverpool, on the other hand, players do get their 2 weeks rest, but that's now, and then only a couple of days after that game, so this game week's game, that's when they play their Champions League game against Atletico Madrid. So big Liverpool players are far more likely to be rested this game week than City's. On the other hand, for those teams not in European competition and playing on the second weekend, they get a nice long 2-week rest now, so you'd expect all of their main players to play provided they don't get injured during that break. And that's basically it, just another way to mess with our little FPL managing heads. So there are 2 fixtures really that you want to be targeting for captaincy this game week, and the first involves this man, Aguero, the goal scoring machine, against the team with the worst expected goals to be conceded. West Ham expected to concede 9 in the last 4, and they did exactly that. They are statistically the worst defensive team in the league right now, and as such, anyone playing against them is definitely worth a captaincy shout. As for City, who else but Aguero? 6 goals and 1 assist in his last 4. Over that same period, he has the highest expected goals, highest expected goal involvement, most shots on target, most shots in the box, lowest minutes per shot in the box. Literally every stat favours him. The scariest thing about captaining Aguero is always the rotation risk, but with a 2-week break for City's next game, and with the injuries to Sterling, this could see Jesus shifted to the left of Man City's front line, leaving Aguero as the only option up top. It looks like Aguero is going to be the defining player this game week. A lot of people are saying you absolutely must bring him in if you don't have him. I'm not necessarily convinced by that, especially given that he has a blank in game week 28, so he is a player that you'll probably be wanting to move on for that game week. A possible rotation going forward as well. Still, if you have Aguero right now, you may have yourself a very easy captain choice this weekend. Salah, I think, is almost as good of an option as Aguero, but not quite. He can't quite match Aguero's recent stats, and he is against a slightly stronger defence away from home. Norwich expected goals conceded in the last 4 games is 7 compared to West Ham's 9, but you know that's still pretty favourable, and Salah does have the advantage of a great form. He gets more points from goals as a midfielder, he has assist potential, and if Mane is missing from the game as he is expected to be, Salah will once again be the centrepiece in Liverpool's attack. There is a minor chance of rotation for Salah given that Liverpool play Atletico a few days later in the Champions League, but it's far more likely that Mane will be the one rotated. On that note, do not think of Mane as an adequate Captain Salah replacement this week. He's absolutely not worth the risk. It's Salah or nobody. Don't choose Mane. I mean, Firmino maybe, but just not Mane. We know what Salah can do. He could have a very good game week, and if you haven't got Aguero and have no intention of bringing Aguero in, it's probably just what you need to do. Alternatively, if you don't have Aguero and cannot keep your eyes off that mouth-watering fixture against West Ham, De Bruyne could be for you. Look, it's the best attacking team in the Premier League at home to the worst defending team. I get why you would just want to stick the armband on any attacking City player, Mahrez, Jesus, whoever. But for my money, I've gone for KDB in this video just because it seems everyone owns him. So he's an accessible option that a lot of people will have. Now, his expected goals is not great, and he's not taking many shots at all, really, but his chances created is second to none, with 15 in his last 4. He has had 3 assists during that period, which is pretty good, and if Aguero is getting the goals, KDB is likely to be the provider. So, KDB could shield you against an Aguero haul to a degree if that was to happen against West Ham this weekend. That said, I can't say I'm overly keen on this captaincy choice, but it's certainly worth mentioning. So, that's all I have to say in the run-up to Game Week 26. If you did enjoy this video, please do consider leaving a like and subscribing. Good luck to everyone this week. I hope you have an absolute blinder, and I hope I've managed to help you just a little bit today. Please join me on my next video, which will be slightly different over the winter break. I won't be doing a preview. I'll be doing maybe a couple of slightly different videos. But for now, see you later, mates.